Settle down, take a breath. We're going back through time to the streets and kitchens of the Roman Empire. This isn't pasta and pizza. This isn't Instagram food porn. This is real Roman grub, smells, sweat, hunger, social divide, and surprising flavor combinations that shaped the ancient world's eating habits. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was its cuisine. The Roman Empire stretched from Britain to North Africa, from Spain to the Near East. Within that imperial web, food reflected geography, class, religion, war, and trade. But if we want to understand what Romans actually ate, not just what they bragged about at banquets, we need to strip away the myths and look at everyday meals, seasonings, and the simple hunger of millions. Social context. Who ate what? Imagine two Romans. Claudius, a wealthy noble reclining on cushions at a dinner party in the triclinium. Gaius, a legionary or craftsman hustling for coins in the Forum. Claudius might sip wine spiced with honey and rose petals, sample flamingo tongues, or even dormice stuffed with pork and poppy seeds. Yes, literal mice served as appetizers. These exotic delights weren't just food. They were symbols of status and wealth, displays of excess that pushed the boundaries of taste. Many of these recipes survive in De Re Coquinaria, the ancient cookbook attributed to Apicius, a name later associated with culinary luxury and experimentation. Meanwhile, most Romans ate simple fare: grains, legumes, bread, pulses, hearty fuel for hard work. Bread wasn't a soft artisan loaf like we imagine today. It was sour, dense, sometimes barley-based, and served as the foundation of daily sustenance. The poor might grind grain themselves, a back-breaking chore, and mix it with water to bake flat loaves on communal ovens. Barley porridge was so common it became a symbol of humble rations. This social gap in food was not just about taste, it was about survival. Garum, the scent that defined a civilization. The centerpiece of Roman flavor wasn't salt, pepper, or even olive oil. It was garum. Fermented fish sauce, pungent and salty, made from layering small fish and salt under the sun for weeks until the mixture liquefied. This was the umami of ancient Rome, poured over meats, mixed into porridge, dissolved in sauces, even added to wine. Some sources say it replaced salt in many recipes. Others report Seneca calling it the blood of rotten fish that people poisoned themselves with. Either way, it dominated the palate of an empire. Garum wasn't just a condiment, it was a commodity. Across the empire, vats of fermenting fish stank up port cities, producing a liquid so valuable it was traded far and wide. Modern researchers even recovered ancient garum DNA from vats over 1,800 years old, showing Romans mainly used sardines to make it, not glamorous fish, but abundant and pungent. For the Roman cook, garum solved a problem: how to make humble ingredients taste like something worth eating. If you were eating stale bread, boiled lentils, or stewed pork bits, a splash of garum transformed the dish. It was the source code of Roman flavor. Everyday staples: pulse, bread, and legumes. For the average Roman family, dinner was often pulse, a porridge made from spelt or barley. Think of it as the ancestor of risotto or polenta, a heavy, plain base that could be stretched to feed many mouths. Pulse often took hours to cook over a hearth fire, stirring and burning, fuel for farmers and laborers alike. Add herbs, some beans, maybe scraps of veg, and you had a meal. Bread was so central that throwing a loaf into a crowd became both a staple and a political act. Poor citizens relied on grain rations distributed by the state. Without bread or pulse, many Romans would literally starve. Cheese, especially hard sheep's cheese like pecorino, was another valuable source of calories and protein. Soldiers carried it on campaign because it kept well. Peasants used it to stretch stews and porridge. Tabernae and fast food of ancient Rome. Not every meal was cooked at home. In Rome's crowded streets, small shops called thermopolia served hot meals to those who couldn't cook: workers, slaves, travelers. Clay jars embedded in counters held stews and soups ready to ladle out, much like modern street food. Among the most common offerings were meat simmered in broth, pulses with garum, and small birds like thrushes pan-fried and seasoned with vinegar and herbs. Recent archaeology suggests these humble foods, once thought reserved for elites, were actually eaten by everyday people in these fast food stalls. This was real Roman life: smoke rising from wood fires, vendors shouting, the smell of roasted meat mixing with sweat and garum, dormice, flamingo tongues, and delicacies. Now let's talk about that part of Roman cuisine, the dishes that make us cringe or stare. Wealthy Romans relished stuffed dormice, rodents fattened in special jars, dipped in honey and poppy seeds, served as tiny, succulent bites. Other aristocrats ordered flamingo tongues, peacock, or even exotic game brought from across the empire as proof of their reach and refinement. These foods weren't just for eating, they were social statements. Banquets were arenas for competition, where hosts flaunted their wealth and guests analyzed every course for symbolism and status. Food was power. Wine, water, and mulsum. Wine was the universal drink, but not like the sweet, refined wines we sip today. Ordinary Romans watered their wine down, often to make it safe to drink, because straight wine was too potent and upset the stomach. Sometimes honey was added to soften bitterness, creating mulsum, a sweetened wine that eased the harsh edges and made social drinking more pleasant. Water from aqueducts flowed through public fountains, but beer wasn't Roman. That was for barbarians beyond their borders. So wine and water were the liquid heartbeat of the empire. Meat, when you could eat it. Meat in Rome was not like today's supermarkets. Pigs, sheep, goats, and poultry were raised close to home. Wealthy Romans feasted on leg of lamb, roasted with herbs. Common folks might get stewed pork scraps when funds allowed. Beef was rare, both because cattle were valuable for labor and because Roman gastronomy favored pork and mutton. Lamb brains show up in some recipes, boiled, baked, seasoned with pepper, and even rose petals. Part of the challenge for Roman cooks was dealing with every part of the animal. Nothing went to waste. Intestines became sausages or stews. Scraps simmered into broth. Bones became stock. This zero-waste kitchen was born of necessity, not trendiness. Sweet and savory, bold flavor juxtapositions. Romans didn't shy away from contrast. They combined sweet honey with salty garum, paired fruits with vinegar and pepper, and spiced dishes with imported aromatics: black pepper, cumin, and herbs. Spices were so coveted that the pepper warehouse in the Roman Forum stored exotic imports from India and Egypt. Black pepper was sometimes used as currency or diplomatic gift, a testament to its value. Desserts weren't cakes with frosting. They were simpler: fruits baked with honey, or sweet cakes offered to the gods during festivals. Food as identity, empire in a bite. Roman food was not monolithic. What a soldier ate on campaign in Britannia was different from a merchant in Alexandria or a farmer outside Carthage. Yet garum, bread, wine, and pulses tied these diverse regions together. Food was identity, memory, and survival. When we look at modern Italian cuisine, some traditions, olive oil, hard cheeses, bread, echo Roman roots. But tomatoes, pasta, and pizza post-date the empire by centuries. What Rome gave gastronomy was mindset. Use what you have, preserve what you can, and flavor it fiercely.